I'm coming at this with no experience, and since it's such a quick project, I'm not really putting in any study on how it's supposed to be done. So given my very limited experience helping my dad put up a pole barn addition once, we're running sort of along those ideas. We're just going to drop 4x4s into the ground on the corners and frame off of that. How's a roof? Sorry about that, we kind of got building and forgot about the video thing. Let's catch you up. Why do we want a greenhouse in the first place? In our local climate, though we have hot summers, the nights stay really cold, and that tends to keep things from really maturing, especially our tomatoes. We've found for the last 5 years that our tomatoes really start to produce about 2 weeks before frost hits, hoping to extend the end of our growing season. We thought it would be nice to be able to start plants indoors early, so we'll try to set up some racks about mid-level so we can do plant starts as well. We've always thought they were cool, and we've had our eyes on some of those cheap kit ones, but we've had two big concerns. I hate disposable plastics. Whether it's a film or even the hard panels, I haven't always been impressed with what they look like after several years. And second, I think most of them are ugly, and we're trying to preserve the historic beauty of this farmstead. So we're looking to do something a little bit nicer. And a friend down the road just happened to have a whole bunch of windows he was willing to donate. We decided to do a stone knee wall because we've got a lot of field stone out in a pile up on the top of the hill, and I just think it would look really cool. This will be a decorative wall only, and I'm really not interested in the investment and the time to dig down a deep footer below the frost line. So we're breaking outside of what I'm sure is the recommended practice. We'll see how it holds up. The idea here is that we are creating a footer plate that our little stone knee wall will be supported on, and this is suspended above the ground just a little bit. Our posts here are going down into the ground 3.5 feet, and then our footer board is supported by this post here. We'll then put in a layer of sheet metal behind, but that will keep the outward pressures off of that wall, and I'm going to see if I can wrap some wire tie-ins to associate the wall tied back to this sheet metal. As you can see, construction's been coming along nicely. This has kind of been framed out by random guesswork, but so far it's working okay. Installing these roof windows was nerve-wracking to say the least. These huge window panels were just left behind the house by the previous owners. Fortunately, we were able to get another 3 people to come and help us lift them up here. Not an easy task, and just going fingers crossed the whole time that it would actually fit. It fit in great. And up at the top, we just have a common 2x4 that they share. The window itself nestles down inside that 2x4 frame, and then we just screwed the flange directly to it. We've got to have some ventilation here, and this old bathroom window fit it just all right. So now we've got a swinging open diagonal window on the end. We provided ourselves a little walkway down the middle, just dropping in a couple round posts to support a minor framework that's holding, again, sheet metal to keep the bed from falling outward into us. Yeah, there are some things I'm not so proud of. When it comes to the parts where I broke out the chainsaw, we're not going to talk about those. These 1x6s are kind of like the loaves and the fishes of our farm. Yep, these are the same boards that are on manure spreader project number 1 and number 2, and we're still working through the leftovers.
Put in the windows today. We screwed it. Yep. Because they're delicate.
The previous owners were not pack rats, but somehow left us plenty of anything we'd ever need. For example, this sheet metal came out of the loft of the barn. This great old door has just been sitting in a lean-to off the side of the garage. This window was in our trash shed to go to the dump after a bathroom remodel. So right now, we're in this about $180 for the cost of lumber. Now we're putting in straw that the cows didn't eat to give us a base that will eventually mulch down so we can keep adding topsoil to it. Will I regret this with all the weed seeds that are going to come back up from this? Most likely, yeah. Time to hurry and get to clean up because my fingertips hurt so bad. As we're going through that, it turns out that the cement seems to really kind of eat away at skin, and then rubbing that over and over and over on sand kind of sands off the rest of it. So let's get washed up and not do that again. So here's where we see the real benefits. Now, it's not quite as dramatic as it looks. This is only October 22nd, and we're having a really early snowstorm, but the garden's been completely dead for a couple months already. So let's see how this is doing. We got down to about 10 degrees last night, and this was no protection for that. And so it looks like our cucumber might be at the end of its life. But we were able to get cucumbers slowly, but a little bit, for an additional month and a half to 2 months past when the other garden went. Over here, you can see our terrible failure. We're not quite sure what happened, but all of our leaves on the tomatoes and then the squash, once it actually got down deeper in the soil, started to curl up really tight. Our best guess is that the manure that we used and the hay that we used to build up that base might have been contaminated with some herbicides. Either way, we're happy to have some green a little bit later in the season, and we'll look forward to giving it a better try next year. Often we're able to hold 60 to 70 degree days in here when it was only mid 40s to 50s outside. So as you know on this channel, data matters to us, so we set out in the month of February to get you some numbers. Here is what a sunny day looks like. Across the bottom we'll be progressing a long time. And you can see when we start at 8 a.m., the temperature in the greenhouse is already warmer. The sun rose about an hour and a half ago. In red is the temperatures of the greenhouse. In yellow is the outside temperature. And in gray we threw in a couple shady outside temperatures to show that the ambient air is actually substantially lower than what our probe that was in the sun was showing. And as you see, the temperature increases significantly over the outside temperature, maxing out at about 20 degrees above the probe that was directly in the sun and 40 degrees above the probe that was outside in the shade. The probe in the greenhouse was in a shelter spot of the greenhouse, so we're fairly confident that this is an accurate reflection of the ambient air. Looks great, right? We should get planting right away. Well, here's the problem. That temperature disappears quickly as we go into the evening. And though we're able to maintain 5 degrees above going into the night, I didn't stay up till 2 a.m. to check. But when we're getting down to 20 degrees at night, I expect it's only 25 degrees in the greenhouse. Sure, this gives us some protection from heavy frosts. We also ended up adding a large black water barrel full in there to try to help moderate some of these temperatures. This has got us thinking a lot about putting a passive geothermal system in with some buried piping and a fan to circulate the air. And from what we're seeing from others' experiences on YouTube, that should maintain the temperature a lot better. If we go ahead and give that a try, you can bet we'll capture that in a video and post that separately. Now let's take a look at a cloudy day. Even so, the greenhouse still gets a better start, though it maxes out at about 5 to 10 degrees above what the outside temperature is. We get this little anomaly in the late evening as the sun swings around just far enough to start warming up our probe that used to be in the shade. And when it comes down to it at the end of the day, we still have a bit of a boost in warmth in the greenhouse. Single day points really aren't worth that much, so we went ahead and got temperatures over and over again. Here's a cloudy day inside the greenhouse, and the same thing is supported. We're 5 degrees above. Here's what a whole load of sunny days outside looks like. We're still looking at a fairly significant level above the ambient outside temperatures. Welcome back. It's a few months later. It's February now, and we are going to get started with planting. And now we get to reveal one of the party tricks of this setup. We have these retractable shelving units. So we're just going to lift up the shelf support, stick in the pin, and then we'll lay a board across the top and then another board, and we'll be able to put out our trays. In this region, you don't plant outdoors until after Mother's Day, so we're jumping the gun by a couple months. So as we get ready for a new season, it's a good time to think about what we did find out worked well and what didn't last year. The design is excellent. The ventilation was great, and temperatures stayed perfect through most of the year. We just had to put a shade cloth over the top when it got really hot. As for what went wrong, mainly it was all around our fill dirt. So we'll have to empty this all out and refill again with something a little more inert. Also, that hay ended up settling a lot more, which was sort of expected, but it just wasn't very useful to deal with. Overall, we love this little thing. It's simple, homemade, cheap, and gives hope when the world is a little cold outside. And that's really what our farm is all about.
This is Cozy Cow Farm.
We've learned a lot over the last couple years working our mid-century hobby farm.
We've grown, and so has our herd and flock.
but we still try to affordably increase our self-reliance while ensuring we and the kids are having fun.
Every day we find there is still more to learn.
So subscribe to join us on the journey.